an overcast Saturday afternoon at Belmont Park, but that has not dampened the enthusiasm of this huge crowd as they check in to watch the last leg of the Triple Crown. We welcome you, everybody. I'm Brent Musburger. This, of course, is the most demanding of all the Triple Crown races, the mile-and-a-half Belmont. And yes, for the 29th consecutive year, we will not have a Triple Crown winner. No horse since affirmed has been able to win the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont in succession. But what we offer you today is a matchmaker's dream. A regally bred filly by the catchy name of Rags to Riches has stepped up to challenge the big boys. Her trainer, Todd Pletcher, one of the best in the world, looked at that pedigree and said, this filly is bred for the mile-and-a-half distance. A.P. Indy, her sire, won the Belmont. Her mother, Better Than Honor. Foal Jazzle, last year's Belmont winner. Look at the entire pedigree. There's Seattle Slew blood here. There's Secretariat blood there. Yes, indeed, this is some outstanding filly. But no filly's won the Belmont since 1905. And make no mistake, she's in deeper than she's ever been. She hasn't raced against the likes of Curlin and Hard Spun. Here in a short time, we're going to see one that, well, would like to step up into that same class, really. Rags to Riches is going to challenge Curlin and the rest of the big boys here today and see if a filly can win the Belmont for the first time since 1905. And Reese is coming with Steve Asmussen, who has the favorite. Reese?
And Brent, Steve Asmussen does have Curlin, and we're walking just a few steps behind him right now. Steve, he closed great in the Derby and in the Preakness. How do you expect this race to differ from the way those were run?
Well, nobody expects near as much pace early in the race. Hopefully he's away cleanly, minus the little stumble at Preakness, and he's in Robbie's hands, and he's comfortable with the way he's at, a lot closer to the leaders.
Big wide turns here at Belmont. How do you think that'll affect your horse?
Well, it should help on the navigation. The big question today is the mile-and-a-half distance. Preakness is a mile and 3/16. This is considerably a further race.
It's a unique thing to New York that these horses are held in the security barn, the monitoring barn area back there. How do you think Curlin has reacted to that compared to the way he reacted in the other Triple Crown races?
I think for the horses that have been through the Derby, this is very minor. The festival of the Derby and all the leads into the pre-race of that is considerably more substantial than this.
When you stop to think about, and I know you want to focus on the details now, when you stop to think about the possibility, what would a win in this race do for Curlin?
I think it'll stamp himself as not only an excellent horse, but possibly a great horse.
All right, Steve Asmussen trying to get 2/3 of the Triple Crown with Curlin. He'll have his chance in a bit, Brent.
Yeah, exactly, Reese. And the bettors here believe that Curlin is a great horse. Bet down to 3-2 here. And we're about 35 minutes away from going to post. But, of course, the story of Rags to Riches. That horse is also being bet down. And, Janine, are you surprised at the amount of money that's been bet on the filly here so far today?
I'm not surprised, Brent. I'll tell you why. She's a filly with impeccable credentials, but her task today, well, it's notable. It'd be like Maria Sharapova facing Roger Federer in the final at the French Open, or like when Annika Sorenstam took on the men at Colonial. The assignment for Rags to Riches is to square off against not just the very best of her generation, but the opposite sex as well. Well, her connections think she's more than ready to chalk one up for Women's Lib.
And here is Rags to Riches. Today she will be ridden by John R. Velazquez. Todd Pletcher, who is looking for his first Triple Crown win, of course, is the man who made the decision. And Michael Tabor and Derek Smith, the co-owners, said, we will follow you. They thought about entering her in the Kentucky Derby, but Tabor and Smith had a part ownership in a couple other horses, so they decided to wait until now. And when Street Sense passed, he said, let's go. So anticipation fills in the paddock. And Hall of Fame jockey Jerry Bailey is going to tell you how a Belmont unfolds.
Minus the cocktails every 15 minutes. A New York society scene down there, and less than 30 minutes away now. The 139th running of the Belmont Stakes. This is the least predictable of the Triple Crown races, which is hard to figure. In theory, you should have more data to go on here. The fields are smaller. But time after time, big favorites get crushed at the Belmont. It's not because New York bettors are stupid. The contrary, So what are the factors? Maybe, guys, that a lot of these contenders arrive here a little bit worn down from the Triple Crown Trail and then really get worn down by this long stretch. And it's got to be the distance, right?
That's the main reason. This mile-and-a-half distance is an anachronism nowadays in American racing. None of these horses have ever run a mile-and-a-half. Only one out of the last 17 Belmont winners ever ran a mile-and-a-half again. And nowadays in American racing, very few horses are bred to handle the extra distance. Here's what we're talking about. Over the mile-and-a-half oval, the Preakness would have stopped here at a mile and 3/16. A 16th of a mile further up the racetrack is the mile and a quarter point at the top of the stretch where the Kentucky Derby would have ended. And the average Belmont Stakes race takes 26 more seconds after the Derby to conclude. And Jerry, when you look at it from the aerial view, it really gives you an idea of how vast this is. You rode here on a daily basis. Even you got confused occasionally.
You know, I had to be very careful, and I did make a mistake. Naturally, when a rider on most tracks gets to this point, right over here on the far turn, they think, okay, we have 3 furlongs to go. Even horses are trained to move when they hit the turn. But in essence, you have a lot further than 3 furlongs to go. You have 4.5 furlongs to go. So a rider's got to be very careful to wait till about this point here, knowing he's at the 3/8 pole. And if he cuts his horse loose any quicker than that, he's going to pay the price the last 16th of a mile.
All right, that's the part of the track there where Mario Pino made that controversial move, so we'll keep an eye on Gomez above hard spun there. Alvarado, who's got stakes wins at this track, he should know what to do with the adrenaline of the moment. And again, that's just one factor. The last 11 favorites, only 2 have won, and 6 straight odds-on favorites. Now, Curlin's not quite an odds-on favorite, but 6 straight, going back to affirm, have been beaten here.
Those were all horses. Those were all horses trying to sweep the Triple Crown and couldn't quite get it done. But it certainly doesn't, bode well statistically for. He's not an odds-on favorite right now, Curlin.
No, not yet.
But he certainly is a solid choice right now.
And there is the one horse. I'm a wild and crazy guy. Currently 8-1, ridden by Mark Giffrey, trained by the New Yorker, the war hero Bill Kaplan. Needs a very quick pace and perhaps unlikely to get it here today.
He does. I mean, the good news is he won't have nearly the traffic to weave through as he did at Churchill Downs. But the bad news is I don't think he's going to have nearly the pace that he had over there.
Tiago again ran 7th in the Derby, bypassed the Preakness, half-brother of Giacomo, Mike Smith aboard.
Now, Mike rode Giacomo, and he tried to do something different. He tried to lay him closer, make a middle move. Giacomo made the lead in the 05 Belmont, but really finished 18 lengths behind the pace. So I think he's just going to roll the dice, take his chances, come from way back.
And the journey of Curlin, the number 3 horse, a $57,000 yearling. 80% of his interest just sold for about $3.5 million. He'll be a monster if he wins this one.
Curlin has only made 5 lifetime starts. So has Tiago. So has Rags to Riches. You got to go all the way back to 1968 and Stage Door Johnny to find a Belmont Stakes winner with only 5 previous starts. Times have changed, though.
There's CP West. The only win, a maiden race at Saratoga's 6 furlongs. Big step up.
Owner Robert LaPinta has made the comment that he thought CP West got slammed in the face by a whip in the stretch of the Preakness. We've gone back and looked at the high-definition replays. Inconclusive. We really don't think it happened. That's why we haven't been talking about it.
5 Slews Tizzy, 770 yards longer to run today than he ever has in his life. You tell me that's not going to be a factor?
Could be one of the longest shots on the board. Obviously, the bettors think so. Will he be on the lead, or will Hardspun be on the lead?
There is the long-legged Hardspun, son of Danzig.
The biggest thing is the jock change to Gomez. And I think anytime you put a sit-still rider on a speed horse like this, you really enhance his chances of getting the distance.
And finally, the filly chasing history. Pletcher not bothered at all by that outside post.
Well, we haven't talked much about the weight spread. The distance is right up her alley. But the 5 pounds she carries less than any other, I think, will come into play largely in this Belmont mile-and-a-half.
Carries 121 as opposed to the 126. For the Colts.
A last look at the odds, and you can see that if you really like Curlin, if this is indeed a super horse, even money is not bad. Hardspun now at 9-2, and Rags to Riches, the filly, she has stayed at 4-1 for about the last hour and a half. And if we're lucky, folks, we're going to complete this before the rain hits. It has become increasingly overcast, and you can feel a breeze in the air. And so, Chris, we're about to find out whether or not Curlin is a super horse that some believe, or whether Hardspun with a new rider can get it done, or this indeed is the day of the filly.
All those questions, Brent, in just a few minutes. And we think the rain can hold off. There is Curlin, labeled a freak very early in his 3-year-old campaign after not racing as a 2-year-old.
You saw Robbie Alvarado use his whip there to wipe just a little bit of sweat off of the withers there of Curlin. But it's a humid day.
It is very humid.
And that's really nothing to... I think what you're going to want to watch, you're going to want to watch Curlin. It's the first order of business coming out of the starting gate, because he has a penchant, as he did in the Preakness, where he stumbled at the start, maybe not breaking that sharply from the starting gate, putting himself at a tactical disadvantage. That's what happened in the Derby.
But if it happened in the Preakness, where it's more devastating to a horse like him, and he overcame it, I wouldn't worry if it happened in the same manner, the slight manner that it happened today. Obviously, Robbie doesn't want that to happen.
He was 14th in the Derby, though, after getting off with a slow start. They can't be 14th today.
But he didn't break bad then. He just got shuffled back. This is when I want to see Hard Spun leaving the gate, and I want to see what C.P. West to his direct inside does, and Sluice Tizzy also to his inside. If I'm Garrett, I'm wanting one of those two to lead the way.
That's the next thing. You've got to watch the 4, 5, and the 6 coming out to see the pace interplay there between C.P. West, Sluice Tizzy, and Hard Spun. And then I think you need to watch Rags to Riches to see if she gets a jump early on Curlin. I think she showed more speed in the Kentucky Oaks than Curlin has shown in any of his 2-turn races this year, and that could put her at a tactical advantage.
Does she have the quickest turn of foot in this race? That's not always what wins Belmonts, but many believe that she does.
Quicker than Curlin, but none of them are going to be that explosive like you're used to seeing in the Derby, going a mile and a half.
These are pretty much a field of grinders, steady grinders.
Wouldn't that be amazing and ironic if that filly right there could finally end the drought for Todd Pletcher, end all those questions about failures in Triple Crown races? 0 for 6 here, but 0 for 28 overall. Wouldn't it be ironic if a horse that many doesn't believe belong in this race ends it all?
Some people have insinuated that maybe he was a little desperate by running the filly, but the shortest price horse to date that Pletcher has started in the Triple Crown went off at odds of 9-2. Right now, the filly is at odds of 4-1. That gives her a better chance statistically than any of his other horses.
Well, his horse Bluegrass Cat was second here a year ago. Second would be a tremendous performance for Rags to Riches, but he's hoping for even better.
They're not going for second, not Michael Tabor and Todd Pletcher.
There is Larry Jones, one of his hundreds of cowboy hats that he's brought to New York City. Will Hard Spun get a different trip with a different rider today?
He gets on Hard Spun in the morning. Good thing he's 180 pounds. He's not on him right now.
Curlin at even money again. Not quite odds-on favorite. Bet down slightly from 6 to 5 morning line.
Curlin going in. Watch him at his break. Watch his behavior in the gate. He had some issues all along in his career with that, but he seems to be good. C.P. West. Edgar Prado on him, being the one that prompted Mario Pino to move a little bit early, so we'll see where he stacks up into the first turn.
Let's tee it up.
All the questions about to be answered in Belmont 139. Back up to Tom Durkin.
And there's the filly in the field, Rags to Riches. The crowd roars, ready for the start of the 139th Belmont Stakes. And they're off. Oh, and the filly bobbled at the break. Rags to Riches stumbled coming out of there. And C.P. West comes out in stride. Sluice Tizzy is there. Hard Spun to their outside. And then farther back it's Curlin. And Rags to Riches out in the middle of the track there. Then Tiago and I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy. So they make their way for the first turn. And Edgar Prado will keep C.P. West well off the rail. Sluice Tizzy is very eager to get to that lead on the outside. Curlin up close today. Through the opening quarter, there was a tepid 24 3/5 seconds. Hard Spun is right alongside Curlin. And it's 2 lengths back, and the filly Rags to Riches is 5th, followed by Tiago at the rail, and 7 or 8 lengths back to the trailer. I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy who's just lumbering along in the early stages of this 1.5 mile classic. So they make that turn into the backstretch run. The pace has been sensible the opening quarter mile, and the half was 50 seconds flat. It's just a bit of a crawl here in the early stages of the Belmont, and Sluice Tizzy is the leader. Sluice Tizzy in front, C.P. West right there. Hard Spun up close, hard held while third. On the inside is Curlin, just inside of the filly Rags to Riches. Tiago is only 5.5 lengths from the leaders. 7 lengths back to stretch running I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy. 3/4 of a mile in 1:15.1. Now the field is approaching the far turn. A long way to go yet. C.P. West, the riders have been very patient, not making a move. There's 5 furlongs to go. Their positions relatively unchanged. C.P. West the leader. Sluice Tizzy is second. Hard Spun's in a perfect position on the outside. Curlin could get bottled up on the inside. Rags to Riches in the clear fifth, only 3 lengths from the lead. And Tiago is beginning to roll now. He's only 3 lengths from the front. They're midway around the far turn. 5 of them within 4.5 lengths of each other. And the leader is CP West. Nothing left for Slow's Tizzy. Here comes Hardspun. And Curlin is coming on, throwing between horses. And Rags to Riches is coming with a 4-wide sweep. And Tiago is in behind them. And at the top of the stretch, a filly is in front of the Belmont. But Curlin is right there with her. These two in a battle of the sexes in the Belmont Stakes. It is Curlin on the inside, Rags to Riches on the outside. A desperate finish. Rags to Riches and Curlin. They're coming down to the wire. It's going to be very close, and it's going to be a filly in the Belmont. Rags to Riches has beaten Curlin in 100 years of Belmont history. The first filly to win it in over a century.
Wow. Girl power rules the day at the Belmont. Not just the first filly in 102 years, but the first ever at 1.5 miles, and she ran down the colt who's been labeled a freak, Curlin.
And you can go 100 years without seeing trainer Todd Pletcher show the emotion that he just showed when Rags to Riches got her head down on the wire in front of Curlin. A stoic guy, but finally his first Triple Crown winner in his 29th.
Just for Riches. $600,000 for winning, and for those who backed her, well, for every $2, a $10.60 return. $4.40 to place, $3.20 to show. Curlin in second, return $3 to place, $2.30 to show. Tiago capturing third, return $3.70. The exacta 7.325 and change. The trifecta 7.32 $131.50. And in case you're wondering on that pick 4, it returned over $5,000. There is the full order of finish. Rags to Riches, the first filly to capture this classic since 1905. Curlin, Tiago, Hardspun, CP West, I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy, and Slew's Tizzy finished 7th. And so, gentlemen, there we have it. It's one we will never forget. History made here today as the filly coming 4 wide is able to win. Chris, what a performance. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the name Better Than Honor. She foaled the last 2 winners of the Belmont Stakes. She joins very heady company, and that accomplishment is here today. Rags to Riches becomes the first filly to win at Belmont since 1905. For the winner's ceremony, let's go over now to Joe Testator. Joe?
Brant, in 1926, the Belmont family donated the Tiffany-created Silver Bowl for moments like this. History-making moments where Michael Tabor and Derek Smith will soon accept this, and handing it out is Steve Dunker, the chairman of the New York Racing Association. Steve.
Thank you. Before I present the trophy, I just need to thank our horsemen. You know, at NYRA, we have the best racing in the country, and it's due to the skill and hard work of our horsemen. And then just briefly, our great New York racing fans. Whether it is a cold day at Aqueduct or a sunny day at Saratoga, they're knowledgeable and they're passionate, and they support our sport. Now to the race. This is as good as it gets. What a bold move putting her in, and as gutsy a look at the boys and spit in their eye win as you can imagine. Just absolutely as thrilling as it gets. For the first time in 102 years, a filly, your filly, has passed the test of a champion and won the Belmont Stakes. Congratulations, Michael, Derek, Todd, and Johnny. Absolutely thrilling. Well done.
It's insured for $1 million. This victory is priceless, utterly priceless. Already you get the sense of history. What did you make of it? Where do you think this will stand in history?
Well, it's the 3rd time apparently that it's been done, and it's a fantastic feat, and if you're not in, you can't win. And we thought that's what the public would really like to see, and I always said to Todd it would be his final decision. We discussed it many times, and I'm glad he made that decision.
Guys, it was a thrilling stretch run. What were you thinking when you saw her dueling down the stretch here?
Well, your heart's in your mouth and you're just hoping and praying, but we had great confidence. We had a great jockey. We've got a great trainer who conditioned the horse well. We knew she'd get the trip, and we just cheered her home. Girl power won in the end, unfortunately. I have to admit it, but that's the way it is.
Will girl power keep on going against the boys?
Well, I certainly hope so, but we'll have to discuss it. We're enjoying this at the moment. I'd like her to go in the Alabama, but then maybe the classics at the end of the year, hopefully, but we'll discuss it. And I'm sure she will.
Janine Edwards is standing by with the main men behind the leading lady. Janine.
That's right, Joe. You know, trainer Todd Pletcher is a 3-time champion, but he was over 28 in Triple Crown races. Todd, put into words what this means to you to not only win the Belmont Stakes, but to make history like this with the filly.
Well, you know, it's a special feeling no matter when you do it, but to do it with a filly, and it hasn't been done in 102 years, I mean, it's a real credit to how good the filly is.
Speaking of that, as you watched the race, she stumbled coming out of the gate. She was 4 wide going into the first turn. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, when she stumbled, I had an immediately bad feeling. But, you know, Johnny and I talked. We just wanted to be patient, try to keep her face clean. And you know, she gallops all day. So when they turned for home and I saw Curlin sneak through inside of her, I knew it was going to be a horse race from there. And we were very fortunate to get it done.
Congratulations on a job well done. Jockey John Velazquez joins me now. John, first time on the filly. A lot to overcome early on in the race. Tell me about that.
But she stumbled out of there, you know, and that was the first thing that I went through my head. Why did it happen right now? But like Todd and I talked before the race, we just wanted to give her a good chance around the turn. He didn't want her to get too much dirt and to be jumping up and down and wasting a lot of energy. So being 4 wide, I think it really helped us a lot. You know, she didn't waste a lot of energy. She was kind of galloping alone, going around the other horses. I got to tell you something. I mean, Gary Gomez told me that she's going to give you 100% even if you don't have to spank it. You know, she's going to run as much as you can without just shake it around, and she really did. So I have to really say thank you to Gary. It's unfortunate for him that he was committed to another horse, but you know, I think this victory goes with him too.
Funny game, this racing game. Congratulations, John Velazquez. Well, they rolled the dice. Their plan worked to perfection, and there is a new queen of thoroughbred racing. Brent?
Janine, thank you, and congratulations go to the winners. John Velazquez, incidentally, ended another streak. He was 0 for 10 here in the Belmont Stakes. And today, now we know why Garrett Gomez wanted to leave Hardspun and return to rags to riches.
You guys know these personalities involved very well. Todd Pletcher and John Velazquez and the owners. Michael Tabor's now won 2 Belmonts here, but they're footnotes. She is the star of the show. A 3-year-old filly makes history, runs down the colts in a Belmont that will not be forgotten for a long time. Number 139 goes to rags to riches. So long from New York.
Pedigree and said, this filly is bred for the 1.5-mile distance. AP Indy, her sire, won the Belmont. Her mother, Better Than Honor. Foal Jazzle, last year's Belmont winner. Look at the entire pedigree. There's Seattle Slew blood here. There's Secretariat blood there. Yes, indeed, this is some outstanding filly. But no filly's won the Belmont since 1905. And make no mistake, she's in deeper than she's ever been. She hasn't raced against the likes of Curlin and Hardspun. Here in a short time, we're going to see one that, well, would like to step up into that same class, really. Rags to Riches is going to challenge Curlin and the rest of the big boys here today and see if a filly can.
16th. This is considerably a further race.
It's a unique thing to New York that these horses are held in the security barn, the monitoring barn area back there. How do you think Curlin has reacted to that compared to the way he reacted in the other Triple Crown races?
I think for the horses that have been through the Derby, this is very minor. The festival of the Derby and all the leads into the pre-race of that is considerably more substantial than this.
When you stop to think about, and I know you want to focus on the details now, when you stop to think about the possibility, what would a win in this race do for Curlin?
I think it'll stamp himself as not only an excellent horse, but possibly a great horse.
All right, Steve Asmussen trying to get 2/3 of the Triple Crown with Curlin.
An overcast Saturday afternoon at Belmont Park, but that has not dampened the enthusiasm of this huge crowd as they check in to watch the last leg of the Triple Crown. We welcome you, everybody. I'm Brent Musburger. This, of course, is the most demanding of all the Triple Crown races, the 1.5-mile Belmont. And yes, for the 29th consecutive year, we will not have a Triple Crown winner. No horse since affirmed has been able to win the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont in succession. But what we offer you today is a matchmaker's dream, a regally bred filly by the catchy name of Rags to Riches has stepped up to challenge the big boys. Her trainer, Todd Pletcher, one of the best in the world, looked at that and win Belmont for the first time since 1905. And Reese is coming with Steve Asmussen, who has the favorite. Reese?
And Brent, Steve Asmussen does have Curlin, and we're walking just a few steps behind him right now. Steve, he closed great in the Derby and in the Preakness. How do you expect this race to differ from the way those were run?
Well, nobody expects near as much pace early in the race. Hopefully he's away cleanly, minus the little stumble at Preakness, and he's in Robbie's hands, and he's comfortable with the way he's at, a lot closer to the leaders.
Big wide turns here at Belmont. How do you think that'll affect your horse?
Well, it should help on the navigation. The big question today is the 1.5-mile distance. Preakness is 1.3 miles.
He'll have his chance in a bit, Brent.
Yeah, exactly, Reese. And the bettors here believe that Curlin is a great horse. Bet down to 3-2 here, and we're about 35 minutes away from going to post. But of course, the story of rags to riches. That horse is also being bet down. And Janine, are you surprised at the amount of money that's been bet on the filly here so far today?
I'm not surprised, Brent. I'll tell you why. She's a filly with impeccable credentials, but her task today, well, it's notable. It'd be like Maria Sharapova facing Roger Federer in the final at the French Open, or like when Annika Sorenstam took on the men at Colonial. The